Wrestling! It's Wednesday. I'm. It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday, and I'm not talking about Dynamite yet. I really got to work on my schedule, lads. I finally got to watching Forbidden Door. After days and days and days, I finally got to it. So Forbidden Door happened. Let me get to a good fucking position here. Swivel chair, I believe in you. All right. So Forbidden Door happened. And I guess I have quite a few things to say about it if I'm in front of my microphone here. So, first and foremost, we started Forbidden Door with the World Heavyweight title with an MJF match. Interesting choice, but you know what? It gets me into the mood to watch a pay-per-view, so fuck it. Good match. Max is always good. Tanahashi. Was it Tanahashi? Yeah, it was Tanahashi. Very, very good. In-ring chemistry was good. Both of them were really good. It was just a pretty solid match to start the day off. We got, immediately afterwards, IWGP. Sonata versus Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy loses. And then turns. Decides to kill Hook. There's this funny little thing that I remember when I'm watching Jungle Boy try to do his like little wave. Looking out in a general state of confusion over at his audience, at his crowd, at his adoring fans, right? And it reminds me of about a year and a half ago. It was Jurassic Express. They were facing off against Red Dragon. Balls out fight. It ended with this little segment where Christian handed Jungle Boy a chair. And he said, smack this unconscious dude in the head. And Jungle Boy, he couldn't do it. He looked at the chair and he looked down. You see this confusion, this guilt, this horror flash across his eyes. Like, is this the monster that I have to become if I'm going to be successful here? And I find it really, really interesting that the way that they decided to do his heel turn had absolutely nothing to do with that. No real callback to that at all. It was just Jungle Boy, I guess, mad at Hook, mad at the audience, mad at the world, because he's just been taking loss after important loss. Right? It works, but it doesn't really feed into any long-lasting established lore, I guess, right? It just feels kind of like a wasted opportunity. And none of this would have fucking happened with Hookhausen. You hear me? You hear me? Bring back Danhausen. Have Danhausen kill Jungle Boy to avenge Hook. That would be fun. Either way, awesome heel turn. It's about time that Jungle Boy has had this kind of turn, and I'm honestly really interested to see what he can do outside the realm of a babyface, because he's kind of been embracing a little bit more of an edge lately. He's been trying to have a bit more of a bad boy persona ever since his spat with Christian, right? Ever since he went singles. So I'm interested to see where Jungle Boy goes from here. Immediately afterwards, we have Eddie. That triples match. The triple tag match. Or was it? It was like a 5v5 or some nonsense like that. It was like a crazy ass match. Between, more importantly, Eddie and the Bucks versus, what is it? Blackbrook. And Eddie coming out here just with the I want to kill Claudio. That's his only real thing, I guess. And he's pissed off by the end of it because he didn't really get to throw hands with Claudio the way that he wanted to, which is really interesting. But the most soulful thing in this entire pay-per-view, the thing that I liked most about Forbidden Door, was this one moment where Mox was on the ground. He'd had his legs kicked out. He was basically helpless up against the Young Bucks. And your mind flashes back years and years ago to a moment where Mox, after an exploding barbed wire death match, lay helpless, broken, beaten, defeated in the center of a ring. And just like in that moment, almost instinctively, Eddie Kingston runs into the ring and throws himself atop his boy, absorbing massive blows from the hands of the Elite. God, that was fucking cool. That was so fucking sick. And that's the kind of shit that I'm talking about when I talk about this Jungle Boy shit. Like, Eddie is literally calling back to years and years and years of trauma. Years of, you know, this friendship that he has. Just the confliction that he has. It's really cool to see small moments like that. Storytelling told within the ring. We don't even have to, you know, sit back and have this big, epic, you know, matter of words. We don't need to set aside a promo off. All we need is two men, former friends, two men who still want to be friends, conflicted, staring at each other on opposite sides of a battlefield. That's all you need, man. It was a great match overall. It was really cool. Really, really good match. A bunch of other things happened, which is a huge blur for me. I'm not going to talk about like every single match beat by beat. I just want to talk about some of the interesting things. The women's match was pretty good. It wasn't nearly as long as I wanted it to be, but you know what? Willow. I'm surprised Willow is as good as she is. Willow's been working her ass off, and yeah, she can carry a match now. Who'd have thought? And then we got... that Kenny match? Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, in a battle to see who is the actual best bout machine for the IWGP USA Championship, or some kind of bullshit like that. These motherfuckers almost killed each other. These motherfuckers went to town on each other. It was the craziest match I'd seen all year. Holy shit. They're busting each other open. They're fucking throwing each other onto tables, onto chairs, putting the steel steps on its side, doing their finishing moves on the apron off the top rope, just doing absolutely everything that they can to legitimately kill each other. I find it really funny that Kenny is the first person ever to kick out of his own finishing move, and he kicks out at one after being stabbed in the head illegally by a screwdriver. And all of that is like, wow. Why even have a match after that? Why would you not end the match there? And then Kenny loses anyway. To prove that Will Ospreay's finisher is incredible. It's strong. It's good. It's wild. Despite the fact that it took about 7 of them to finally put Kenny down. Right? It's just like... it's this weird thing. It's this weird measure of stakes, I guess. What do we got here? It's just weird. And then we have the Jericho match. It feels like nothing was really advanced. Nothing was really finished. There was no real finality to any of that match. Like, Jericho and Sammy are fighting. We have a couple fun little moments where you know, Sammy does his little pose, Jericho poses on top of him. Then we have Minoru fucking Suzuki posing on top of Jericho, this like 3-man stack. It was really fun. But no one was really pushed. No one got over. No stories were told. I mean, we had to have a segment after the fact so that despite the fact that he didn't get the pin, we had to have Sting grab Jericho's baseball bat because Jericho was really mad that he lost. He started beating up. He started beating up Naito with a baseball bat, and the Sting is like, "I have the bat, and I will hit Jericho with the bat." Hit Sting's music. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, what the fuck is this? What is with this fucking over fetishization of Sting? I get it, Sting's a legend. I get it, Sting has done a lot in his career. And I get that Sting is a pretty big deal. He's a pretty hype guy. Sting is cool. I like Sting. Do we have to worship Sting? Do we have to have everything revolve around Sting? This shit is pushing Darby so fucking far down. You know, the golden boy of AEW, the guy that we want to literally push up and hinge all of our bets on? Why is he being overshadowed by Sting every single time he's on television? And why are we not telling a story about that at all? I like Sting, but having everything revolve around him is actively hurting Darby's brand. And I would like for that to stop, to be honest. And finally, the main event. Now keep in mind, this is a main event that is on some Titanic shoulders. This is a main event that is overshadowing the fact that MJF, our world heavyweight champion, was the starter. Usually that's the kind of shit that is focused for a main event, or at least it should be. This is our world heavyweight title. This is the AEW title, man. Why is it the starter? Well, it's the starter because we have some incredible matches otherwise. We have this Kenny versus Ospreay match. It's going to be wild, crazy. If we have the world heavyweight match after that, and it doesn't feel as impactful because these two individuals were killing each other throughout the entire course of their match, because their match was so high octane, because their match was so good. Well, clearly the headliner has got to overshadow that, right? The headliner has got to be the craziest shit that you've seen in your life. And it should be. I mean, the booking is there. It's Okada, the Rainmaker, against Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon. Bryan, he comes out and they pull in his old theme music from back when he was in New Japan. They play the final countdown. He's getting ready, but we're in a really, really weird position, aren't we? Because Bryan is evil right now. And we don't know what to think about Okada. Should we be rooting for Okada as the good guy against Bryan, who is the evil guy? I mean, that's typical wrestling stuff. Or is this one of those things that should transcend wrestling? Is this one of those things that where it's such a monumental occasion that these two are even in the ring together? This will never happen again. It's a miracle that this happened to begin with. That's the power of Forbidden Door here at AEW. So we should be rooting for both of them. We should be rooting for the sport of wrestling, right? Right? But the crowd is confused. The crowd is deflated because they were so jacked up. They are still pumping adrenaline from this Kenny and Ospreay match. And we have high expectations for two individuals who are clamoring for the bragging rights of the greatest of all time. And the match just did not lead up to those expectations. I've seen both of these two fight. Different matches, of course, but not each other. But they didn't really have a very good chemistry. They didn't really have a lot of energy, which is fine. You can have a low energy match. You can have a slower paced match, but you have to be able to get the crowd into it. There has to be something binding us to this match. And Bryan has always been able to be that guy, right? He's always been that guy where, he's pushed down, the chips are out, he's beaten within an inch of his life. But what does he do? He is hit, and he's hit, and he's hit, and he pulls the Hogan, he hulks up, and he gets the crowd really ready to go, and he starts running back and forth, runs to the rope, hits a guy, runs to the other rope, hits a guy, runs to the rope, hits the guy, throws him in the corner and just jumps on top, punches him in the head, hits him, gets him on his knees, and gets like the left kick, the right kick. Yes. Bryan even went out today and he sat on a ring post and he started doing this. And everyone in the crowd, every single person acknowledged it. We brought back the yes chants just to get the crowd worked for this match. And it wasn't worth it. It felt a little bit pathetic that we had to resort to that. Because all those other things that I said about Bryan going high energy, running back and forth, doing crazy stuff, he didn't do that. He didn't do any of that. Then he expected us to be really into this match. And I'm not saying that neither of them tried. Bryan took multiple pile drivers this match. The fact that Bryan Danielson ever has the chutzpah, or that anyone around him has the stupidity to let Bryan Danielson take a fucking pile driver in the year of our Lord 2023 is crazy. And every time he takes one of those moves, I'm like, dude, stop. You don't have to do that. He's going to hurt himself again, and then I get worried about him, and then that takes me out of the match. This should have been one of the best matches I've ever seen in my entire life. And it was one of the worst matches of this pay-per-view, man. I don't know. I just wish it could have been better. But otherwise, Forbidden Door, pretty good. Gotta say, it was not terrible. Wasn't really as good as the last Forbidden Door, which, honestly, my expectations were so monumentally low for that one that anything was going to be great, and it just blew my expectations so out of the water that, it was just, there was no way I wasn't going to like it, I guess. This one I expected more, and you know what? It met my expectations. I thought it was going to be really good. It ended up being really good. Just with a little bit of a flimsy finale. And I know they'll do better. I know they have it in them to do better. Bryan's going to have a much longer career. Bryan's going to have so many more great matches in his career, and so is Okada. But I don't think that we're ever going to get this specific moment again. Or at least for another year if they want to, bring back, like a 2 out of 3 feud between them. Wouldn't that be fun? But I guess we'll find out next year, won't we? Until then, everyone, I'll see ya as soon as I get my Dynamite nonsense done. I want to say later tonight, but we've seen my schedule so far. Peace. How could you do it? How could you do this to me? Why, Jungle Boy? Why would you do this? You were the chosen one. You weren't supposed to go down this path of evil. You were supposed to be better than this. Oh.